What is up, all my cyber and crypto friends? You're listening to the Cybersecurity and Cryptocurrency Podcast. Today is Friday, March 29th of 2019, and this is episode 66 of our podcast. I'm your host, Eric English. I recently changed my Twitter handle as well. I'm now at CyberCryptoGuy. So it's at CyberCryptoGuy. So, to get started here, there's a lot of things in cybersecurity. I wanted to chat about some watering hole attacks, more stuff with Facebook, cyber espionage, ransomware, more stuff about Facebook, some GitHub stuff, and Toyota. And then on the crypto side, going to talk about Bittrex, some Coinbase stuff that you can do to earn some money, what Binance is doing for compliance. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Twitch. Then I've got a crossover story about a couple of exchanges that got hacked. So, to kick things off here, one of the biggest things in the cybersecurity space over the last few days, if you haven't already heard, Asus, they basically had a supply chain attack, and their update mechanism infected millions of Asus computers. So if you have an Asus computer and you haven't already updated it, now's a good time. I also, every time I get a new computer, I uninstall all the manufacturer crap. That's the first thing I do. Or I just reinstall Windows Fresh with nothing else in it, because I can't stand all the crap that they put in there. They have their support thing, they have their update thing, all just a pain. I mean, Windows Update does just fine. If I need to update the BIOS, great. I'll do that separately. I don't need your update tool. I don't need all these other tools that don't do me any good. And here's another great reason why. So Asus, that's been basically the hottest topic this week in cybersecurity. So it's unfortunate, but if you're like me, you just uninstall that crap as soon as you get a new system. The thing that worries me, though, about that specifically is what corporations deployed this, and did these corporations still have that update mechanism installed, the Asus update installed on their corporate systems? That's where this gets really scary. So I can see probably a big fat lawsuit coming against Asus because of this, because infecting, all kinds of corporate assets with some malware or whatever is not a cool thing, and it all could have been avoided one way or another. So anyway, if you have any of these in your corporate environment and you haven't already patched, now's a good time to check on that and get those updated. All right, some other cybersecurity stuff. I was reading some interesting articles this week about watering hole attacks. And I'd never really heard this term before, and I kind of had to look into it a little bit. But I understand the meaning of the term now. You basically poison the water hole that the animals go to. So you'd poison a corporate website that a bunch of people from that corporation are going to go to. So there were some pretty big ones hit. These are in South Korea. They were doing some of these watering hole attacks on a bunch of South Korea websites. One of these apparently was one of their biggest search engines in South Korea. So essentially what this attack does, they inject JavaScript, and it basically creates a login box and tells people that they need to log in, and thus phishing for credentials left and right. So that's interesting stuff, the watering hole attacks. It's a very targeted brand of phishing, whereas most phishing is just kind of, you send it out and see what happens kind of thing, right? You're not always targeting. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. All right, some other news here about Facebook. More hits keep coming for Facebook. They got charged for equal housing discrimination. So just, another thing to bash Facebook with. This is a pretty big, I think there's several $100 million that they're going to fine them or whatever for this. So that's certainly unfortunate for Facebook, and anybody that uses their platform just keeps getting worse and worse for their brand name. Some other Facebook stuff. They just recently enabled a white hat setting, so you can actually do some white hat hacking in Facebook. So if you're into that kind of thing, you can go into your profile settings and turn on this white hat setting, and it allows you to do some pen testing of Facebook. So that's kind of cool for all you white hat hackers out there, or even not so white hat. Go out there and see what you can do. All right, some other news here. The Norsk Hydro, their ransomware hit that they got hit with last week. My goodness gracious, they basically shut down their entire water. They're a big dam essentially, and they generate energy, so they basically shut down the whole plant. And they took forever to get everything recovered. They've already lost $40 million. Holy crap, that's a lot of money. So that is the cost of ransomware. And you think people don't think about this aspect of it. Would you rather pay this 40 grand and lose a bunch of business? Or would you rather pay or 40 million, I should say, sorry. Would you rather pay $1 million, maybe $2 million, and just have better security all throughout your environment? So it's one or the other. You can either get ransomware and pay a whole bunch of money, or you can actually button up your security and hope to prevent this kind of stuff. Nothing's perfect, obviously, but apparently they had some pretty archaic systems, and they weren't even really being targeted either. It's one of those typical phishing campaigns. Once the hackers realized what they were into, they deployed ransomware. So, not exactly targeted towards them either. So, certainly unfortunate for those folks. All right, some other news here about some cyber espionage that's been going on. There's apparently this hacking group called APT33. They're based out of Iran. And apparently they've been doing a bunch of cyber espionage all the way back to 2015. And they're targeting all kinds of organizations, including governments, research organizations, chemical, manufacturing, engineering, consulting, finance, telecom in the Middle East and all other parts of the world. So that is quite a bit. They were targeting 18 American organizations in the engineering, chemical research, and finance. So, and healthcare. Wow. That's been happening over the past 3 years, and a number of those companies were apparently Fortune 500 companies. So that's pretty scary stuff. They've been exploiting that WinRAR vulnerability that came out several weeks ago. There's a POC exploit out there on the web, and they've apparently been targeting this WinRAR vulnerability to hack into all kinds of different things to do cyber espionage. So pretty interesting stuff there. And they're also saying that APT33 works on behalf of the Iranian government. Whoa! So, who knows what they're really after? They're probably after some sort of government secrets. Maybe they're after our technology. They want to, steal our tech before we actually make it, kind of thing. Who knows, right? But certainly scary stuff there to see what these folks are really up to. Nation-sponsored hacking seems to be a lot more common nowadays. All right, some other news here about GitHub, and I'm not surprised about this. People post lots of stuff on GitHub. All the programs and apps that are out there on GitHub, all open source, and that's great, right? Well, the problem there is there's a lot of authentication mechanisms that should be kept secret, but yet they are published all over GitHub. And essentially this allows you to reverse engineer the authentication mechanisms and get into those whatever that application is. So I thought that was just kind of more interesting than anything, but not surprised. People usually just throw their code up there and don't even think about it. They don't even make it private. You can't make it private unless you have an account with GitHub, and you got to pay for that account to make it private. So pretty crazy stuff there. If you use GitHub at all, you can do some reverse engineering if you're into that thing. All right, last thing in cybersecurity, Toyota announced yet another breach. Apparently this was in their sales division, Toyota sales. And they got about 3 million records of Toyota and Lexus customers that had purchased cars. Wow, that's a lot. And Toyota had the same thing back in February but they said that no customer data was actually touched. Well, not anymore. They got some customer data now. 3 million records. I guess that's small potatoes on the grand scheme of things. You think about all the Toyotas on the road and Lexus cars and trucks on the road. There's tons, right? But hey, it's still 3 million that got out there. And they still haven't said what information was in that customer information yet. I'm sure these articles will update that once they have that info. But I'll post all these articles to the show notes so you can check all those out. All right, jumping over to cryptocurrency. Bittrex, the crypto exchange, is going to release a euro-backed stable coin, and you can apparently do staking with this coin for 8% interest. So staking has become kind of the new normal now. It used to be mining. Now everything is switching to proof of stake and earning interest on staking. Staking, all that means is that you're just holding on to it. And a lot of the proof of stake stuff, you have to keep your wallet open and essentially just connect to the internet, make sure it's got internet access and keep it open. Others allow you to close the wallet and it still earns for you. Just kind of depends on the setup there, but that's kind of cool. If you want to make some very passive income, you can get 8% interest on that euro-backed stable coin. So that's coming up with Bittrex, so check that out. If you like free crypto, you're going to want to hear this. And Coinbase does this with other programs as well and other cryptos, but their new one recently is through their Coinbase Earn, and they're doing it for Stellar Lumens. So you can earn some Stellar Lumens. They say up to $50. Here's the caveat, right? There's always a caveat. You get about $10 just going through the little quizzes, which if you're pretty savvy at crypto, you don't even have to watch the videos. You can just go right to the question and answer most of them right off the top of your head. But that gets you about $10. And then from there, you have to invite 4 friends, and you get $10 for each of those friends that sign up and take their little quiz and watch the videos. So yes, you can earn up to $50 in Stellar Lumens, but you have to send it out to all your friends. So spam your friends, make more crypto. Anyway, it's cool stuff. Coinbase has other stuff, coinbase.com/earn, if you want to go check out some of the other stuff they've got on there. They had one for Ripple a while back, and it may still be up there, and you can earn some free Ripple. There's several others out there too, so go check that out if you want to just earn some free crypto and keep it in your Coinbase account. Certainly an easy thing to do there. At least you'd get $10 worth. All right, some other news here about Binance. Binance is kind of starting the compliance game in crypto, and that's great. It sucks, but it's great, right? Everybody wants crypto to be unregulated and free and open, which I totally agree with. But in order to get big investment firms and get on the stock exchanges and whatnot, there needs to be some sort of regulation. So Binance is tightening their compliance, and they're also tuning what they call their identity mind to basically make sure that people are who they say they are. They're also doing other things in compliance. Really hasn't been officially published yet, but they are doing quite a bit to try to push for some compliance stuff, although it's not official yet. But their Identity Mind product is supposed to combat against money laundering, essentially. So they're trying to keep in line with those regulations worldwide to prevent fraud. So that's why on a lot of these exchanges here recently, and I've seen this at Coinbase, I've seen it at Crypto Bridge, a lot of these exchanges now are asking for photo ID. You have to send them a picture of your photo ID. You also have to send them a picture of yourself holding your photo ID and a sign with a custom message on it. So They are definitely verifying their customer's identity, especially if you are in the United States. That's kind of the biggest thing that they have to do for the U.S. is they want to verify all U.S. citizens, and they do it with those various methods there. So if you log into CryptoBridge, they're going to make you do their identity verification process. It's not exactly the most fun thing to do, but certainly doable. But you're going to see this more and more and more. Coinbase did it to me a while back, which kind of really pissed me off, to be honest. I was buying and selling a lot of crypto, and all of a sudden, like in the middle of it, I bought a bunch of crypto. I was going to go send it off to an exchange to do some trading, about $500 worth. And they said, oh, wait, we got to verify your identity. Like, what? I've been using Coinbase for at least 2.5 years, and now all of a sudden they want to verify my identity right after I'd made a $500 transaction to go trading with. So I had to go through their whole identity verification process and submit all the documents. And it took them 5 days to let me withdraw that $500. $500 is small potatoes for most folks. For me, that's a lot of money, you know? That's $500 that was sitting there for 5 days, and I lost out on some really great opportunities because I was sitting there waiting for Coinbase to release those funds and allow me to start doing some trading. So beware when you get onto Coinbase. If you're a U.S. citizen, they have to do this identity verification for everybody. So do that before you go and purchase any crypto on there. Save yourself the headache, because I was rather pissed because I missed out on multiple different cryptos that have since gone up. They were basically started out at about 80,000 in market cap, and they went up above 14 million in the span of 7 days, and I missed out on that. So extremely irritating. Way it goes, I guess. All right, some other news here about Twitch. It's the online game streaming platform. Amazon owns these guys. They have recently removed the ability to do crypto payments for subscriptions. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I wonder why they're removing that. But Amazon apparently said, nope, we're going to pull this. We don't care about crypto, and they're going to move on with life. So I thought that was just interesting more than anything. Makes me wonder why they wanted to take it out of there. All right, kind of a crossover story here about a couple of cryptocurrency exchanges. One is called Dragon X and Coinbean. They both have disclosed hacks recently. And, you know, it's unfortunate because it seems like these exchanges are just getting hacked left and right. So Dragon X lost a little over $1 million, while it's Coinbee. Coinbee lost 45 million. Maybe that's a typo, because in the title they have Coinbean, and the article says Coinbee. Well, either way, it's one of those. They lost 45 million in crypto. That is a crap ton of money. So, wow. All these exchanges getting hacked, oh man. It's very concerning, number one, but this is why you never keep your funds at the exchange. Always, 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 always do your trading, take your funds out, put them in a wallet that you have control over. Don't leave those funds at the exchange if you can help it, because stuff like this does happen quite a bit, apparently. Cryptopia got hacked a while back. We all know about the Quadriga CX hack up in Canada, where that CEO passed away. Now they can't even get into their quote-unquote cold wallets because only he had the password, and the drama continues with that one. But more and more and more of these crypto exchanges are getting hacked. And a lot of them seem to be the smaller crypto exchanges. So if you stick with the big boys, Bittrex, Binance, those kind of trading platforms, they're a little safer, but I won't say that everything is perfect there. Either way, you need to take your funds out as soon as you're done trading. Put them in a different wallet that you control the private keys on. All right, folks, that's all I've got for today. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at CyberCryptoGuy. That's at CyberCryptoGuy. So hit me up on there. I retweet a bunch of the articles to talk about here on the show, so go check that out. I'll post all the articles that we talked about today in the show notes, so you can always go back and refer to those if you need to. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk again soon.